So we have been, okay, so I should also do that. So let me just go over here. Okay, so today we're going to analyze we're going to use the tools that we learned to analyze different phenomena, the classification relation, and we're going to uh, analyze certain cases. So the revision on name and word, ming, sik, sik. So let me write this. Mm, Ming, mm, okay. Ming, Ming, sik, sik. So we're going to discuss on these things today and try to understand in depth the relation between these things and then some of the arguments that may arise. So for those cases, we're going to do this classification, and you'll see that this type of analysis is actually very useful in many fields of life when it comes to intellectual analysis. So before we go to the actual argument, this is a small revision for what we learned about the first grammatical case. So, first grammatical case, definition. The first grammatical case is a grammatical case which depicts the meaning or essence of a term. So what it does is that it either shows a meaning or a essence. So when we say essence, we actually mean the meaning. So there's a slight addition to this. So last time we talked about the individual existence, and in that case we talked about the negation of all the affirming through negation. So we talked about it. So to not be uh, to not be a table is to be a table, because what we do is we negate everything that is not a table. So therefore we affirm. So first is the non-affirming negation, and then we have the affirming negation. It's a combination of affirming and non-affirming negation here. So this is something that we did, but we're going to further discuss what this concept is of individuality of terms. And the other thing is this is classified as name and words. So this particular, the first grammatical case is classified in name and words. When we say name and words, what we mean is that the first grammatical case have two different narration. And these narration can be classified as name and words. So a note. So this is something that was not discussed in the last class, which is it is one of the two grammatical case, including the eighth grammatical case, which doesn't have a connective particle as a conjoining particle. So the first grammatical case, what it does is that there is no conjoining of two particles. It is only used with one name. It could be either mingsik, naming word or names, or it could be word sik. So this particular case can only be used in that particular way. So therefore, name and words are also, and then we must understand that for a case of first grammatical case, they consist of two parts. So name and words are a part of narrative of first grammatical case. So when we say a first grammatical case, the narrative of first grammatical case, there are two parts. The first one consists of either name or word. It could be either a name or a word. When I say name, I mean the Mingzik and not the Ming. The name as the small letter name, so the lowercase name, which is Mingzik, or it could be word, which is Zik. So we understand that there are two parts. So a narrative of first grammatical case consists of either it could be a name and then which is followed by a recompound particle. We're going to study recompound particle after we have gone through the first grammatical, we have gone through the name. So the narrative of first grammatical case consists of a name word, which is followed by a recompound particle. So it could be either a name, which is Ming Sik here. Let me just do the correction here directly. So Ming Sik, or it could be a Tsik. So this is a choice here. It could either be a name Ming Sik or a word Tsik. And then you add the connective particle, which in this case is the recompound particle. And at the end, you get the first grammatical case. So we are going to talk more about the first grammatical case as we cover the recompound particle. Because without covering the recompound particle, we are still left with half of its part unknown. So today we're going to discuss only these two parts, which is the Mingzik and Tsik, and the collective group, which is the Ming or name. So our analysis will begin on arguments. So this is the way we're going to dwell deeper into the concept that we have already learned. And the way we're going to do is with the help of arguments. So we're destroying the arguments. So we're destroying some arguments. So the first is the person who is asking the question, and second is the person who is answering the question. So the first, so in this case, we see that then, okay. Okay, so in this first argument, we see that it's the first that is answering and the second that is questioning. So the first answers, so the first states, normally it has to be the other way around. So first stating the definition of name, it is the smallest grammatical structure to convey a meaning. So our prime commitment, our principal commitment is that name is a smallest grammatical structure that can convey a meaning. So anything that can convey a meaning and is considered to be a smallest grammatical structure needs to be considered as a name or mean. So the second one is asking, so the second person, which is asking the question, states, if it is a name, so if something is a name, if it's a name, is it the smallest grammatical structure that can convey a meaning? So the second one is asking, if something is considered to be a name, then does that mean that it is the smallest grammatical structure that can convey a meaning? And then the first one says, no, since there are names which is unable to convey a meaning by itself. So the first one answers that, no, this is not the case. This is not a valid statement because there are names which is unable to convey a meaning by itself. Now the second one is asking the question. The questioner is asking, then a name is not the smallest grammatical structure that can convey a meaning. So it's asking, like, then in that case, is name not the smallest grammatical structure that can convey a meaning? And the first person answers, no, that is not the case, meaning when the first person says no, he's disagreeing. So it's saying that it's disagreeing and stating that let me just because this is very misleading in this case. Very sorry. This is very misleading. Let's change it to this. So the person who answers says it is an invalid statement. Since it is stated that it is the smallest grammatical structure that can convey a name, but there is no mention of uh, the name. There is no mention of the name itself. So since we don't have the name itself in the statement, there is no way to be found where it states that it is the smallest grammatical structure that can convey a meaning by itself. So since there is no narration like this explanation is still valid because it states that it can convey a meaning, but doesn't mean that necessarily will convey a meaning. It can convey a meaning means that it is capable of conveying a meaning, but it doesn't state that uh, that it can convey a meaning by itself. If it was that a name is the smallest grammatical structure that can convey a meaning by itself, then the explanation is invalid. But the statement doesn't state that. This is not our principal commitment. Our principal commitment is it's the smallest grammatical structure, which is combination of consonant and vowel. And sometimes it's only the consonant, but it is capable of conveying meaning. So the capability of conveying a meaning could be by itself or with the association with other name. So it can convey a meaning, but not by itself. Then can the state then can okay, so can you state, so it stays, then state the type of name, and the first person says name and words. So there are only two type of names and words. So the second person says name and words are type of name. Okay. So now, in this case, what we did is we talked about the confusion that if it was stated that it is the smallest grammatical structure that can convey a meaning, and then there could be an argument, like in this case, where the person argued that if that is the case, then is it the case that the name can it is the case that name is able to convey a meaning by itself. So let me add this. So it states that is it the case where the name can convey a meaning by itself? And then the person says, no, that's not the case because there are name which is unable to convey a meaning by itself. Thus, it needs to be associated with other name. So here what we do is we try to resolve the confusion that is on the basis of name being a grammatical structure that can convey a meaning by itself. There is in no way stated that it can convey a meaning by itself. It's only stated that it can convey a meaning. And sometimes these grammatical structure require to be associated with other grammatical structure. So therefore, we understand that in some cases, there are names which may not be able to convey by a meaning by itself. Okay, so this is what we analyzed here. And we understood that name are the smallest grammatical structure that can convey a meaning either by itself or being associated with another name. And there are two types of name, names and word. It's either names or it's word. So, okay, so now the other argument, the second argument that we have is going to argue on the pervasiveness of name, Ming, and over Mingtic names. So the argument starts. Yes, what is a name? So define a name, or what is a name? And the second person states, free morphemes used to represent a phenomena using a term. Okay, so the definition is it's a free morpheme used to represent a phenomena using a term. Then the question, the first person asked, since characteristic of an object is a phenomena, because we know that tall, short, then big, small are all characteristics, and they are phenomena. So since characteristic of an object is a phenomenon, does this mean that these are names? So the question is that since characteristic of a phenomena, which is an adjective, is a phenomena, does that mean that so characteristic of an object is a phenomena, so does that mean that these are names? And then the second person answers, no, no, that's not the case. Names function to only represent a phenomena and shows neither an action done by a phenomena nor a quality or characteristic of a phenomena. So it's strongly stated in the definition of names, Mingzik, that it only functions to represent a phenomena. And it shows neither an action done by a phenomena, so it doesn't shows an action. Therefore, an action word is not a name, nor a quality or characteristic of phenomena, which is adjective. So neither action word nor an adjective is a name because it doesn't function to represent a phenomena. So therefore, even if it's an existing phenomena, for example, the characteristics are existing phenomena, they may not be names of phenomena. So first person asks, classify name and names on the basis of classification relation of 3 of kind, 4 of kind, mutually inclusive and mutually exclusive. So the name with the capital N is Ming and the lowercase n is the Mingzik. So classify them on the basis of 3 of kind, 4 of kind, mutually inclusive and mutually exclusive. And the second person answers 3 of kind. The relationship, the classification relationship is of the 3 of kind. Okay, so the first person asks, state the 3 cases of 3 of kind, and the second person answers, the case of being both name and names is lakpa. Lakpa, which is a body part, that's the hand, as a name of part of body. This is a name as a name of a phenomena, as well as it's a name, a smallest grammatical structure that is capable of conveying a name. But in this case, it can convey a meaning by itself. So this is the first case of being both a name and name, Ming and Mingzik. Now the second case is the case of being a name, but not a name. Is the connective particle ki. So the connective particle ki, we see that it does not represent a phenomena. It doesn't represent a phenomena. So in this case, we see that it is a name, which is a shortest, which is the smallest grammatical structure that can convey a meaning by being associated with other name. But it's not a name, which is a representation of a phenomena. So the third case, the case of being neither a name nor names, neither Ming nor Mingzik, is the vowel E. The vowel E is neither a name because it doesn't convey any meaning at all, It's just a sound. So therefore, it's neither a name, and so it's not a Mingsik. So what was the purpose of us classifying these two phenomena on the basis of these four criteria? The purpose was that then name is persuasive over names. So now we know that name is persuasive, meaning that name is the bigger group and that names comes under name. Mingsik is a type of name and that it comes under name. And that we understood that Ming is a bigger group. That if it's a name with a capital N, Ming, it doesn't mean that it has to be names, Mingsik. If it's a Ming, it doesn't have to be a Mingsik. It's a bigger group. We understand it as to be a bigger group which represents names as well as other grammatical structure which are not just names. So then the second person answers, yes, name is pervasive over names. So now we have understood that name is a bigger group and names, it is just a subgroup of the bigger group that is name. So now we have already established that name is the bigger group and that if it's a Mingsi, it doesn't have to be a Ming because there is things like connective particle, sikte. Or there are other words, sik, which are named Ming, but are not Mingsik. Okay, now we're going to analyze this even more deeper. Now, first, define word. So first person asks, define word. Second person, the word are morpheme, which is a grammatical structure, a lexical structure that shows a meaning other than that of a name of a phenomena. So it's a morpheme and it functions to show a meaning because it's a type of name, Ming. Things which are other than names of phenomena. So now we have already talked in the earlier argument. These could be action words. This could be adjective. So the first person now asks, does. It's not those, it's does. These are all typographical mistakes. So does that mean all word other than that of the name of phenomena? Which is yes. Each and every one of the name. If it's a name, it conveys, and if it's conveying a meaning, that meaning can be anything but a name of a phenomena. So the word, if it's a word, it doesn't matter if it's what type of word it is. If it's a word and if it's conveying a meaning, it conveys a meaning that is never of the name of phenomena. So it's always other than that of the name of the phenomena. It could be a characteristic. It could be an action. Sometimes it could just be a conjoining particle. It could be ornamental. It could be a companion word. But it never ever conveys a meaning that is the name of a phenomena. So the second one says, yes, that is true. That is valid. So if it's a word, it will never convey a name of phenomena, meaning as a name of phenomena. So first one, state the types of words. And the second one states, free morpheme word and bound morpheme word. So we have two types of word. The first one is the free morpheme word. The second one is the bound morpheme word. Okay, so first, define. So the first person says, define free morpheme word. So the second one answers, word that can convey a meaning by itself. Okay, so a free morpheme word is a word that can convey a meaning by itself. So first, state the type of free morpheme. The second person answers, adjective and action word. So adjective and action words are word, but they come under the group free morpheme word. And what is a free morpheme word? It is a word that can convey a meaning by itself. Therefore, if it's an adjective and if it's an action word, it is able to convey a meaning by itself. It doesn't need any other name to be associated with it. Meaning to be associated with it to give a meaning. Okay, so the first one asks, first person asks, state the classification relation between name and adjective on the basis of classification relation of 3 of kind, 4 of kind, mutually inclusive and mutually exclusive. So classification based on between name and adjective on the basis of classification relation of 3 of kind, 4 of kind, mutually inclusive and mutually exclusive. So the second one says, second person says, mutually exclusive, because there is no case of being both a name and an adjective. So there is no case in which something is both a name, which is mingsik, and an adjective, which is a kesik. So there is no word, no name, no ming or name that is both a mingsik and a kesik. So first, why is it that there is no case of being both a name or an adjective? So why is there no case of something being both a name and an adjective, being both mingsik and a kesik? And the second one answers, because name is free morpheme used to represent a phenomena using a term, and adjective is a word, and so the word are a morpheme that shows a meaning other than that of a name of a phenomena. So we see that the name, which is mingsik, it functions to represent the name of a phenomena, whereas adjective, which is a word, functions to show meaning which is other than that of a phenomena. So we see that these two are contradictory and therefore has no similarities whatsoever. And since there is no similarities whatsoever, we see that there is no case in which there is, which is both a name, mingsik, and an adjective, kesik. And these are contradictory by their own definition. So therefore, one states that it has to show the name of phenomena. The other states that it has to show a meaning that is other than the name of phenomena. And thus, these are contradictory and has no similarity whatsoever. So here we understand that, so here what we did is that we try to understand the difference between the naming word name, mingsik, and sik, which is the word. And though how both of them are words, they are not the same. And this is understood by the classification relation. So this is the actual benefit of classification relation, because you tend to understand the relation between any two phenomena in a very extensive way by using this method. Okay, so now define bound morpheme. So the first person says, now define bound morpheme. So the second person says, bound morpheme word that cannot convey a meaning by itself and requires to associate with other name to give meaning. So bound morpheme are words which require to be used with other name or associated with other name to give a meaning. So when you write a bound morpheme by itself, it is incapable of conveying a meaning. So we see that uh, a bound morpheme and a free morpheme are also in contradiction. So there is so these are contradictory phenomena. These are separate phenomena uh, and contradictory to each other, meaning that there is no similarity whatsoever between a bound morpheme and a free morpheme. But one may say that, oh, isn't the similarity the fact that both of them are a word? And so this kind of confusion will be answered in the second argument. Okay, so a bound morpheme word cannot convey a meaning by itself and requires to associate with other name to give meaning. So they're incapable of conveying a name meaning by themselves. So the first person asks, is bound morpheme word a name? So he says that is the bound morpheme word a name, a ming. The second one says, yes, it is a ming. The first one asks, why is it a name? Why is it a name or a ming? And the second one says, because it is a word. Because it's a word, and because word is a type of name, therefore bound morpheme word is a name. Now the first person asks, if it is a word, is it also a name? And the second person answers, yes. If it's a word, then it's also a name. But this doesn't go the other way around, where we say that if it's a name, it's a word. No. If it's a name, it could either be a word or it could be a name as Mingsik. But if it's definitely a word, then it's definitely a name. Because we already defined that name is pervasive to both Mingsik and Sik word. So therefore, name is a bigger group. So if it's a word, is it also a name? Yes. Now first, classify name, ming, and word, Sik, on the basis of classification relation of 3 of kind, 4 of kind, mutually inclusive and mutually exclusive. So the person says that classify the name, which is Ming, and the word, which is Sik, on the basis of classification relation of 3 of kind, 4 of kind, mutually inclusive and mutually exclusive relation. And the second person answers, it's 3 of kind. The first person says, state cases of the 3 of kind. And the second person says, case of being both name and word is word, which is to go. Because it's a word as well as a name. Why is it not a Mingsik? Because it's not representing a phenomena. Why is it a word? Because it's representing a meaning that is other than a phenomena, name of phenomena. Why is it a name? Because it's a smallest grammatical structure that conveys a meaning. In this case, by itself. But doesn't necessarily mean that it will do in all the cases. So case of being a name, but not a word, is the name Hasa. So the name of the city, Hasa, is a name of a phenomena, a name of a place. Therefore, it cannot be a word because these two are mutually exclusive. And thus, it's a name because name is pervasive, Ming is pervasive to Mingsik. Therefore, it's a name, but it's not a word. Okay, now case of being neither a name nor a word is the sensation of coldness, the feeling of cold, the feeling of feeling cold, the sensation of feeling cold. That is neither a name nor if we designate a term for that, the term is a name. But the sensation itself is not a name, it's a feeling. So it's formless. A name should be with form. This is formless. And thus name is pervasive over word. So name is pervasive over word because we see that it is three of a kind relation. Whenever, if there are two cases or two phenomena which have three of a kind relation, and one phenomena has the case where it is the phenomena but not the second phenomena, then the phenomena that has the case where it is the phenomena, regardless of being the second phenomena, then it is pervasive to the second phenomena. For example, in this case, we have the case where it was a name but not a word. So name is pervasive to the word. If we would have had a case where it was a word but not a name, then word would have been pervasive to name in case of three of kind. So thus we understand that name is pervasive to word. Okay. So first one asks, if it is a name, if it is name, so it says that its name pervasive over word if it is name and it is pervasive over word, then is it pervasive over bound morpheme word? The answer is yes, because bound morpheme word is a type of word. And since name is pervasive over all types of word, it is also pervasive over bound morpheme word. Yes, name is pervasive over bound morpheme word. Now the first one asks, there is no name that cannot convey, the states there is no name that cannot convey a meaning by itself. So it states that there is, if it's a name, it has to convey a meaning by itself. And then the second one says, not a valid statement. This is not a valid statement. Then the first one says, are there name that cannot convey a meaning by itself? And the second one states, yes. And then the first one asks, state a name that cannot convey a meaning by itself. And the answer by the second one is bound morpheme word. Because we know that bound morpheme word is a name, but a bound morpheme node. So the first one is saying bound morpheme word is a name that cannot convey a meaning. So we know that bound morpheme words are the word which cannot convey a meaning by itself, and therefore it requires to associate with other name to convey a meaning. And then the second one says, yes, it's a word. Bound morpheme word are name is a name, but it cannot convey a meaning by itself. So here it's itself. So okay, so the second one says yes. So the first one says, why? Why is this the case? The second one says, because bound morpheme, the definition is bound morpheme word cannot convey a meaning by itself and requires to associate with other name to give a full meaning. So to give a meaning or a full meaning, it has to associate with other name. So these are bound morpheme. And since name is pervasive over bound morpheme, meaning bound morpheme is a subgroup of name, therefore it's a name, but it cannot convey a meaning by itself. So therefore, name can be categorized in two types. It could be categorized as name which can convey a meaning by itself, and a name which cannot convey a meaning by itself. And when we say a name which can convey a meaning by itself, it can be either name or it could be free morpheme word. And name that cannot convey a meaning by itself, which cannot convey a meaning by itself, would be bound morpheme word. So this is the actual argument that is happening on understanding the concept of name. So by the end of this argument, what we have learned that if it's a name, it needn't be a grammatical structure that convey a meaning by itself. And what are those grammatical structure which comes under name that cannot convey a meaning by itself? And these are bound morpheme words. And what are the what are the grammatical structure that comes under name, which can convey a meaning by itself? And that is name, mingsik, and naming word, mingsik, and free morpheme word. And then we see that even though name and adjective are both name, they come under the same group, that is the name. It may not be the case where they both are mutually inclusive, because we understood that both of them are mutually exclusive because they are contradictory by definition and there is no similarities whatsoever. So this is the first argument, and then we have contradicted some of the arguments. Okay, so now this is the argument number 2. Okay, first, it is not possible to state the types of bound morpheme words. So the first one states a contradictory extreme. It states that that it's not possible to state the types of bound morpheme, and the second one states it is not a valid statement. Okay, so the first one states is it possible to state the type of bound morpheme word? And the second one states yes. Okay, then state the types of bound morpheme word, and that was that the second one answers the companion word sikto, ornamental word sige, and connective particle sikte. So the first one as defined companion word sikto, defined sikto. The second one states companion word are bound morphemes that connects with a name to help give a meaning. So companion words are bound morphemes. So these are bound morphemes that connects with a name to give a meaning or a full meaning. So the first one says, give an example of a companion word. Second one answer, kipo, po. Panarupo is a companion word in the word kipo, which means happy. So po is a companion word. Okay, so the first one says define connective particles. Particles are bound morphemes under words, which is one of the main teachings of 13. The connective particles function as conjoining particles to join two narratives or statements. This may be two name. In some cases, it could be just two name, ming, or it could be two sentences, depending on the usage case, tunjor. So it depends on the tunjor, which is the usage case. The first one asks, give an example of connective particle. The second one answers, po in the word kampo. Kampo means the person who wanders here and there, the wanderer. So kampo is a connective particle as possessive particle dakta. It has the possessive particle dakta. So therefore it's a connective particle. The po in the word kampo is a connective particle and it comes under the possessive particle dakta. So the first one asks, is po not a companion word since it is a companion word po for kipo? So the second one says that you're using kampo here, but the word po here, isn't it not a companion word because it is a companion word po for the word kipo? The second one answers no. And the first one asks why? Because the second one says not all po is a companion word. So not each and every one of the usage of po is a companion word. So the first one asks, classify companion word po and the connective particle po of the possessive particle on the basis of classification relation of 3 of kind, 4 of kind, mutually inclusive and mutually exclusive. The second one says mutually exclusive because these are contradictory and has no similarities whatsoever. So these are both contradictory and there's no similarities between them two. And then the first one asks, aren't these both po? Can we say that both of these are po and that therefore these are similar, or that is the similarity? The second one says, yes, but these are not same type of po, meaning even though they may sound and they may appear to be same when you write them, but these are not the same type. These comes under the sound po. And when we say are not same type, we have already argued in the former argument. We said that bound morphemes are words which cannot convey a meaning by itself, but it requires to associate with other names to give a full meaning. So the meaning changes with the companion or with the word, a name it associates with. And therefore, we see that in this case, both po are associated with different name. And since one is associated with the word ki, it becomes the companion word. The other is associated with the name kyam. It becomes possessive particle. But it is true that both of them come under the group which is sound of po, because both of them sound po. The sound of both of these are po. Therefore, they come under the sound po, which is the combination of the consonant pa and the vowel o, or naro. So one may argue that, like in that other case, one may say that, bound morpheme and free morpheme, don't they have the similarity of being a word? And then we say that definitely word is pervasive upon both of them, but this doesn't mean that just because both of them are word, they are same. Just because these are word, it doesn't. These are word. That doesn't mean that these two are same. For example, hot and cold, hotness and coldness are both sensation. They both come under the group sensation, but that doesn't mean that both of them are same. On contrary, these are both exclusively contradictory. By existence, they cannot exist simultaneously in one simultaneously upon a single space. It could either be hot or cold at a single moment. At an instantaneous moment, it could either be hot or cold. It cannot be both hot and cold at the same time. So therefore, just because something comes under the same group doesn't mean that both of them have the similarity of being under the same group. So therefore, these are separate phenomena. So similarly, bound morpheme and free morpheme may come under the group word, but they are two separate phenomena and mutually exclusive, and they are in contradiction to each other. Contradiction to each other, and they don't have any similarities whatsoever. So that is the case. So we will talk about the similarities and the pervasive phenomena, the more pervasive phenomena, the generalized phenomena, and the individual phenomena during another chapter of the another connected particle, where we will dive in more deep on the concept of generality and individuality of phenomena, individual and general phenomena. But just to give you a small idea, for example, we can say that table is the general phenomena, and there are many different individual type of table. We have a wooden table, we have an iron table, a metal table, we have a plastic table, and all of these are different individual types of table, but they all come under the same group, which is the table, which is the general phenomena in this case. But we will talk about this later in a different chapter. Okay, so what we understood here is that even though po in companion word and po in connective word have the same appearance when written and the same sound, it doesn't mean that these two are same. But upon that, we also understood that these are actually mutually exclusive phenomena, which means that they are contradictory to each other and there's no similarities whatsoever. Okay, so the first one says, classify po and sound of po and companion word po on the basis of classification relation of 3 of kind, 4 of kind, mutually inclusive and mutually exclusive. So this is the classification that is being asked. So the second one answers 3 of kind. The classification relation is 3 of kind. State the cases of 3 of kind. So the first one is the case of being both. The second one answers the case of being both sound of po as well as companion word po is so I'll send in the correct edited version. So both sound of po and the companion word po in po as a companion word in kipo. So the po in the word kipo as a companion word is both a companion word as well as the sound of po because it sounds po. Now the case of being a sound of po but not a companion word po is po in the word takpo. So when we have the word takpo, which means owner, the po is a connective particle. It's not a companion word. Therefore, even though it has the sound of po, thus it comes under the group sound of po, it doesn't come under the group companion word po. Now the third case, which is neither the sound of po nor the sound of nor the companion word po, is the sound of ka. The sound of ka is neither the companion word po nor the sound of the word po. And since we know that this is a 3 of kind relation and that we see that the sound of po is has more cases, therefore we know that the sound of po is pervasive on the companion word po. So the first one asked is the sound of po is pervasive to companion word po, and the answer is yes. Now the first one says, is the sound of po pervasive to the connective particle po? And the answer is yes. So the argument is, if a companion word po, if it is a companion word po, it doesn't have to be a connective particle po. And the argument says yes. So we somehow so this is the argument that we have to be discussed in this class. And through this argument, what we did is we analyzed some of the cases where people may argue what we have already studied about names and words and companion words and adjectives and action words. And so I took some of these arguments, and then what I did is I used the tools that we have, the logical tools that we have, to analyze this. And then finally, we got some of the answers. So this is a very traditional logical analysis method, which can be used in many different fields, actually. So we use this to thoroughly analyze. So what it does is it thoroughly analyzes any subject. I know that it's like for the first time when you're doing it, it feels like there's too much, there's like too much there. But you'll see that there are many, like sometimes you may see that, oh, since it's already established, why is the person asking again? Is it this or is it that? And you'll understand that that is done for the sole reason so that we may understand this concept clearly, to leave out all the doubts. Asking it twice is a form of investigating if there is any further doubt. And if in both time, if the person says yes, then it is supposed to be their final answer. So therefore, we see what we saw is a series of reasoning and logic working here. And this method is actually very efficient, but it takes time to learn in the beginning. But as you keep on studying this, you'll get used to it. And you'll find that this is actually a very good way of understanding things. So this is the revision. This is the revision on names, and words that we did. And So today it seems that the classes are being the classes are clashing with the other class, which is of the Nalanda, the Tibet House Nalanda class. So therefore, some of you who have come here are also attending that. That means that today we are just going to leave the memorization. We're not going to do the memorization today. Okay, so therefore we directly go to question answer. I know that it was quite a heavy class, but the thing is that once you get used to this, it will become much easier. So questions. Does anyone have questions? You can just type it in. If you cannot speak, you can just type it in. And if you can ask it directly, you can just ask it directly. So does anyone have questions regarding today's lesson?
Nghĩa là
Yes,
nó thì qua chị
Lasso.
nghĩa là I find it confusing actually.
Which one?
Is it possible nghĩa là give example of each because example for what about Yapo? Yapo
Hmm.
is companion words or it's not a companion word?
So Yakpo and Sangpo. These are all po as a companion word. So the word like Yakpo, Sangpo, these are all po used in as a companion word. Similarly, here we had the example where we said that kipo, we had kipo. So in the word kipo also, po is a companion word and not a connective particle. So when po becomes a connective particle, it can only become one type of connective particle, which is taktra, which is possessive particle. But for it to be a possessive particle, it should be used with something which is a person. So for example, kyampo, it's a person. Kyampo, it's a person. When adding po to this word kyam, what it does is that it makes this entire word into a person. Similarly, Cong, pa. When we add pa to Cong, it becomes Congpa, which means a merchant. So if it makes it into a person, then it's called the possessive particle. Otherwise, it's a companion word. So therefore, normally we may argue, like, for example, we can say like, oh, Ringpo, what about Ringpo? We know that when we say Ringpo, it doesn't represent a person. If we have to say that is a tall person, we have to say mi Ringpo. We still need to use the word mi. So therefore, Ringpo doesn't become a person, and thus po there is a companion word and not a possessive particle. So does anyone have more questions regarding today's lesson? Okay, three of kind and four of kind. So when we say three of kind and four of kind, these, as we already discussed, are tools to analyze. So when we say three of kind, a three of kind classification relation should have basically it should have three criteria, and these three criteria are known as the these are known as the cases of the three of kind. Since it's three of kind, there should be three cases. The first case should be if we are using this to analyze two phenomena, the first case should be of the case where it is both the first phenomena and the second phenomena. For example, let me give an example. If we say that a relation between, okay, let me take a new slide here, totally new slide here. And then, okay, do we have this? Okay. So these are the, okay, so if we were to analyze this relation between white and horse. So if it's a three of kind relation, what should happen is that there should be the first case where it's a horse and it's white. The second case should be, it should be horse, but it should not be white. And then the third case should be, it should not be either horse nor white. So in this case, we see that, so let me give you an example here for exactly three of kind. So let's say, okay. So if we have the relation between a person and a person called sitting. So please never use this particular, it's, okay, let me write it here because it's very risky. If you just say me sitting, that's a very rude thing to say to anyone. So if we say me and sitting should be me, a person that's called sitting and a person. And then we say, what's the classification relation? We say it's three of kind because there are three cases. The first case is it's a thing that's both a person and both a person that's called sitting. That is the person that's called sitting. If you have a person whose name is sitting, is he a person? Yes, he is a person. Is his name sitting? Yes, his name is sitting. So both the criteria is fulfilled. So this is the first case of being both. The second case is of being a person, but not having the name sitting. So the case of being the former, the first one, but not the second one. And we say that example is a person called Tashi. A person called Tashi, is that person a person? Yes, it's a person. It's a me. It's a human. But is it a person that's called sitting? No, it's not a person that's called sitting. So that's the second case. Now, if we argue, is there a case where it's a person called sitting but not a person? We'll say no, it's not possible because a person called sitting should always be a person. So therefore, there's no possible for that case. Now, the final case is for it to be neither be a person nor be a person called sitting, and that could be a dog. A dog is not a person. And definitely, if it's not a person, dog is not a person called sitting. So therefore, we see that in this case, we only have three cases of it being the first one and the second one, of it being only the first one, and of it being neither the first one nor the second one. Now, for the case of horse and white color, so there are four cases. What is the first case? The first case is that they are both horse. It's a both horse and white, which is a white horse. Is white horse a horse? Yes, it's a horse. Is white horse white? Yes, white horse is white in color. So therefore, it is both a horse and a white in color. Now the second case is for it to be a horse but not white in color, and that would be a black horse. Is black horse a horse? Yes, it's a horse. Is it white in color? No, it's not white in color. Now the third case is it has to be white but not a horse. Then we say a white house. Is white house white in color? Yes. Is it a horse? No, it's not a horse. So we have three cases already. Now it should be the final case where it's neither the horse nor white in color, and that is black color. Is black color a horse? No, it's not a horse. Is black color white color? No, it's not a white color. So it's a case where it's neither a horse nor a white color. So we have 4 cases here. Therefore, this type of relation is called 4 of kind. So this is 4 of kind, and this is 3 of kind. So this is the 2 relation. And now the mutually exclusive, like we said, for the case of free morpheme and Brown morpheme words, there's no similarities. You cannot have a thing which is both free morpheme and bound morpheme words. And therefore, it is contradictory and it is mutually exclusive. Mutually inclusive is interesting. Mutually inclusive is, for example, if we say impermanence and object phenomena. So a table is an object phenomena, and table is also impermanent. So these are mutually inclusive. If it's impermanent phenomena, it is an object phenomena. If it's an object phenomena, it's a impermanent phenomena. If it's not an object phenomena, it's not impermanent phenomena. If it's not an impermanent phenomena, it's not an object phenomena. So these are one of the same nature. These are of same nature, and these are mutually inclusive. So this is the these are the 4 classifications. I hope this made it clearer. So any more questions regarding today's lesson? I know that at the first few attempts, this is more confusing. And you feel like, oh, there are so many arguments that's going here and there. What is happening? But the thing is that eventually you'll catch the hint of how it works. And when you do that, you'll feel that this type of classification or this type of analysis is actually very, very, very effective in many cases. So please be patient with this method. It's a very beautiful method. It's a very efficient method. And it's a method that definitely you will catch before we're done with the entire course. I mean, as you continue understanding this method, at the end, you might actually like this method more than any other method of analysis. Lasso, any more questions?
Yala, can you give illustrations, example on free morpheme words and bound morpheme words?
Okay, so example of free morpheme words. So let me give you example of free morpheme word is sa, to eat, ti, to write, draw, to go, ringpo, tall, tung, tung, short, kyakpa, fat. These are all free morpheme, because when we say sa, it means to eat, and it doesn't need to be associated with any other name to show its meaning. So therefore, it's a free morpheme. T, to write, it's a free morpheme because the meaning of writing, to show that meaning, this word doesn't have to be associated with any other name. Similarly, do, which is to walk, to go, you don't have to write another name here so that we understand the meaning of to walk. So therefore, this is free morpheme. Ringbo, tall. Similarly, it doesn't. But here you see that there is a companion word, po, here. So you may say, oh, in that case, this is a companion word. Why are you writing it here? Right? Then I will say that, yes, definitely, this is a companion word. In this case, when we say po by itself, it's a companion word. But here we're taking it as an entire thing, as an entire phrase here, as ringpo, as one single word. Then you'll say that, oh, so therefore ringpo is an adjective. As a whole, the meaning of ringpo is adjective, but po by itself is a companion word. So that's the difference here. So if you'll say ringpo is a companion word, no, ringpo is not a companion word. It's an entire word by itself, which means tall, which is a adjective, which is a free morpheme. But po by itself is a companion word because it cannot have a meaning by itself. Then we have tung tung, which means short, and then we have kyakpa, which means fat. So all of these are adjective, which shows a characteristic or a feature. We see. So these all of these words as a whole, these three words as a whole, not by part, but as a whole, as Gyakpa, Tung, Ringpo, these are adjective and free morpheme. Now for companion word, we have, for example, Ringpo, we had po in Kipo, in the word Kipo. The word Kipo is not a companion word. This single portion, Ki itself has a meaning, it's a name by itself. But the companion word is this, po. Sangma. Here the word ma is a companion word. Then we have a word like hama, which means lies. This ta is not a companion word. This ma is a companion word here. So this is something that we must understand. When I say companion word, I mean these portion only. I'm not talking about this or the entire word. The entire word, kipo, is a feeling of happiness. So it's either a naming word or in some case, it's a adjective. But this particular portion of this word, this single syllable of this word, po, that is a companion word in this. Similarly, ma is a companion word, and ma here is a companion word, and these are bound morpheme. Then, nang, tu, dro. Here, the word tu is a bound morpheme. It's a connective particle. But it doesn't mean that this entire thing is bound morpheme. No, this is a narrative, so it cannot be a word. It's a narrative. It's more than a word. But this singular portion, tashambyutu, is a connective particle and a bound morpheme. So, did I make it clear?
Yes, thank you, Kianla.
So, does anyone have questions? Does anyone have?
I had a small doubt, Tenzila. So I was wondering, so any kind of label that we give to things or to any phenomena that should necessarily fall under one of the classification of capital N name, right?
Yes. So any phenomena that you label, so any label comes under the capital N.
Capital N. So when we say feeling or sensation of coldness, then that's also a label given to a feeling or sensation. Then why?
Okay, so this is what I was saying. So the name given to the sensation of feeling cold is a name. There is no argument there. But what I'm saying right now is the actual sensation of feeling cold, you know? That feeling when you feel cold. That feeling is not a name, isn't it? So it cannot be any.
But the moment we talk about it, it's a label. Otherwise, it has to be a silent thing, right? Moment we speak, the moment we say anything about it, it's a label, right? So it should be counted under.
So now a wonderful argument. So please let me make an argument for you now on this. Then does it mean that the name table is a table?
No, but it's a label given to the table, right?
But is the essence of table, that is the table, is it the name?
No.
Does it mean that when I say table, the table appears automatically? So
based on how you have defined the table or how you have based on how you label table, your label table will appear.
But the very term table,
Image
the
will
very
appear.
term table, will it make the table appear without
The
any
gen-
external factors, or
Yes,
without any
mental
other factors? Just by saying the word table, will the table appear?
mental image can appear, no?
The table on which currently I'm placing everything, my computer, my books, my pen, that table, that tangible table, that gross table, that tangible gross table, which I can feel contact with, that table, can it appear?
No, that's not necessary.
Why? But it's labeled. Isn't it? So if it's labeled and it has to be in existence, if the existence has to be on the basis of, the existence have to be on the basis of the label itself, then shouldn't the label be able to perform everything that the existing phenomena can do?
Now you are trapping.
I'm very sorry, because the question was going towards the Prasangik Madhyamika's idea of the conventional reality, and so I had to go there, because you said label, and the moment you said label, it was going to that concept, and so I had to say that. So now I can make the point that just merely saying table will not arise the gross conventional table, isn't it?
Right.
There are so many different parts, right?
Yeah,
Similarly, right. Just by labeling, the sensation of coldness will not make me feel cold, is it? There is the part of the sensation of coldness where the coldness is a contact. It has to touch my skin, and my skin has to acknowledge that it has felt that coldness, and then that mental factor of my body has to convey that message to me, isn't it? Then I'll feel like, oh, I'm cold, isn't it?
But then you're not counting on the mentally imputed phenomena in that way. Then you would only be counting on the tangible phenomena. Then
so now this is actually a wonderful argument that you make. Now I'm going to take it, and then I'll say that, does that mean that just by the simple projection of my mind, can I create everything? Is the mental imputation the only sole elemental thing that is the thing which is the sole representative of the existing phenomena? If that is the case, so for example, you have a mental image of a table, right? So you are mentally imputing the table, isn't it?
Right.
Right? Then where did that image come from? Because the table that you're imputing should come from that imputation, isn't it? Then where did that table come from? Then if you're imputing it at current moment, then where did the table come from? Because it could not be before the moment you were imputing it. But then if you're imputing it, you have a mental image. Where did the mental image come if there is no table before your imputation?
Because I imputed it based on the functionality of it.
But the table doesn't exist, so where is the functionality? It is based on your imputation. What did you impute it upon? Because the gross table doesn't exist before your imputation.
Right.
So this is actually a wonderful argument, and this is an argument which is actually a very valid argument between the Prasangik and the Swatantik Madhyamika. A very fierce battle that's happening between these two schools. And then the Swatantik says that if you say that everything is mentally imputed, then where is the actual thing? Is there no thing at all? Are you imputing on imagination? Are you imputing on empty things and then creating things from space. And then the Madhyamika says, the Prasangik says, that's not the case. Imputation doesn't mean that I create from imagination. Imputation says that it exists because dependently it exists upon my imputation. It's only dependently existing. It's not existing merely by my imputation. No, sorry, it's not existing by my imputation itself. It's existing dependent on my imputation. So two very different case, right? So the label is dependent on the label is dependent on the phenomena, isn't it? If there is no sensation of cold, how is the label existing?
Right.
Isn't it? So therefore, this doesn't become a name. This is the part of the coldness that is not the name, but just the sensation. And we know that out of the 5 aggregates, sensation is not form, is it? Sensation is not form. Name is form because it's sound. So one that is formless cannot be form, is it? So therefore, the sensation cannot be name. A label is definitely label is name. But right now we're not arguing about the label. We're arguing about the formless part of the formless part of the sensation of cold. But that doesn't mean that this formless part also exists independently. It exists dependently. Like you cannot go and say like, oh, this is the formless part of the coldness. No, this is the formless part of the coldness, but it exists dependently. Because we know that it can be cold, but it can be warm in consideration to something else, right?
Right. But the
10
moment
degrees
you
is, yes?
If you say formless, then that also becomes a label, no? If you say
formless becomes a label. But then
Yeah.
without these that is the thing. Formless is a label, but the characteristic that it is labeled upon may not be form, may not be the label. If that is the case, then you saw what happens. That every time you label it, it has to appear. Right? So it doesn't happen that way. And then the other argument was that if it has to appear when you label it, how does the label work? It has to work on something that existed before the labeling, right? But then it contradicts your own idea that it has to appear when it is labeled. So what is before labeling? Nothing. Then what is the label based on? Nothing. The label, but it is not the label. But it is not the label also. So
right. Right.
So wonderful argument, and therefore this is how I will defend the argument of saying that the sensation of cold is a formless phenomena. The name cold is a sound and it's a form. So formless phenomena cannot be a formed phenomena, right? So this is how I'm defending my argument.
You won for now.
Thank you. So I will await for the next battle.
Okay.
Lasso, thank you. So, okay, now I think this is it for today. And thank you very much for participating in this class. And I know that this type of analysis, it seems much more of a work, but once you get used to it, I tell you, every form of analysis is going to be so deep and efficient that you're going to love this. And then you're going to say, oh, I only want to do it in this way, you know? So therefore, work on this. If you have difficulty, ask me questions, and then we will work together on understanding this. And so therefore, thank you very much for joining in with me on today's class of the revision on names, and word. I hope it was beneficial and wonderful questions. If you have similar questions that was asked, please send it in the group, and